What is your guys' favorite Zelda game of all time? Mine personally is Ocarina of Time. It was so groundbreaking and it changed gaming forever. Well, mine personally is Twilight Princess. It gives us that dark and edgy feeling we rarely ever see from Zelda games. For me, it's gotta be Breath of the Wild. That open world exploration was just so amazing. Skyward Sword, for sure. It's got the best Link and Zelda relationship by far. Well, mine personally is Tears of the Kingdom. It lets me fight enemies with giant dick-wielding robots as well as crucify Koroks. I'd like to change my answer.
Zelda games. The only series that can do the same thing over and over and over again, then play it off with some bullshit story about reincarnation and no one bats an eye. Maybe Mario should take this idea too. There's a Zelda game for everyone. Maybe you like amazing, stylized, cel-shading art styles that still look gorgeous to this day. Maybe you like retro, classic-feeling games for the NES. Or maybe you like making yourself suffer, but don't worry, Zelda's got you covered. Zelda games have been around for longer than the majority of series, which is a testament to how good their quality is. They may never top the popularity of Mario for Nintendo's IPs, but don't get it twisted. These games are the pinnacle of everything Nintendo produces. Zelda is my favorite gaming franchise of all time, and I've played every single main series game that's been released. Although, I'm not gonna lie, Xenoblade is catching up to you, Zelda. Might wanna step your game up. Oh yeah, that's what this video is about. The things about Zelda games that constantly keep people coming back to them are so much more than the majority of games. Usually a game has one or two things that really make you want a new one, but Zelda hits every note. The characters are always charming and add to the overall world. The world as a whole is beautiful, with so much to do and so much to uncover, which leads to exploration and secrets that give the game hours and hours of extra gameplay. The controls are always buttery smooth. Don't you dare say Skyward Sword, I will fuck you up. The items you can use add so much variety to the gameplay as well as to the puzzles, which is another thing that makes the game so much fun. The stories are always so creative, which is impressive when the model is a fairy boy saves a princess who really shouldn't need saving from an evil pigman every time. Yet they manage to make each game feel different. And then it's all tied together with gorgeous soundtracks that stick into your mind for a lifetime and fit every emotion. From happy to intense to mental depression, you'll never know what you'll feel. When Breath of the Wild came out, all of these notes were hit to perfection. Besides maybe the story, but that's fine, it came right after the best story in the entire series, so I'll give it a pass. When it was announced we were getting a sequel, everyone wondered how they would build on such a nearly perfect game. The first trailer gave us such little information with Link and Zelda walking down a tunnel before oh fuck. Seeing a decayed Ganondorf was more than enough to get everyone excited and start speculating on what we'd see in this game. If the castle is floating, will we be able to go to the sky? Will we be able to go underground like Link and Zelda were doing? Will Ganondorf look sexy when he's revived? Yes, and more importantly, hell yes! I personally thought this was DLC when it was first revealed, which I think is kind of funny looking back at. Why the hell would they have made more DLC for the game 2 years after the game came out and they had already released 2 DLCs before? I have no idea why I thought that. What a dumb idiot. We then had to wait nearly 2 years to get any more information on the game, and all we got was, it's delayed. Oh, and here's Skyward Sword HD, so you can now shut up, Evan.
I will shut up, thank you.
Luckily, just a few months later at E3 2021, we got a second trailer where they revealed how they're going to build on the nearly perfect game. They forced Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild to have unprotected sex and create the most insane game we've ever seen.
Oh, get a room, you two.
This was only the second trailer, and it was already showing us how much more incredible it looks and how much grander the world is in Breath of the Wild. New enemies, new weapons, new abilities, 2022, I can't wait for that. If the first trailer made us speculate what would be in the game, this one made us want the game in our hands. And 2022 is only next year, that'll be here in no time. Wouldn't be a sequel to Breath of the Wild without 100 delays. Fortunately, these were good delays to finish polishing the game and make it the best it could be, aka what every development team should do. Don't try to rush game after game out every year, but instead take your time and make the game completely finished.
Now, I'm not going to be naming any games in particular, but you know the type of games I'm talking about.
The first official trailer came out in September 2022 and it didn't show too much new stuff, but we did get the name of the game here, Tears of the Kingdom. This trailer came out the same day Queen Elizabeth II died. Aonuma has some sick sense of humor. Aonuma had said he didn't want to reveal the name of the game too early as it would spoil some of the story, but why does he care about that now? Plus, the spoilers are never that crazy. Ocarina of Time, wow, you travel through time. Majora's Mask, wow, the villain wears a mask and is named Majora. Wind Waker, wow, you use the wind to move. Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. Okay, those do kind of spoil the story a little bit, so you win this round, Aonuma. The next trailer came out in February 2023 and showed more areas and more enemies in the game. It's really looking like the perfect Zelda game, but Oh no. Oh no, 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 no! I trusted you, Nintendo. I don't know why, but I trusted you wouldn't be as stupid as Rare. I put thousands of hours into your games, and this is how you repay me? It's okay. I don't want to judge the game too early. I mean, I would be stupid to get my hopes up and think there's going to be the greatest game of all time and then be disappointed because it's really a driving simulator. At least it gave us some varieties. We can see a hot air balloon and a flying contraption, so it's more than just a car. Plus, it's Zelda. They've never made a mistake before.
What about, and also, and you could even include, okay, we get it. Can you just shut up now? And don't you dare ever say anything bad about Skyward Sword again, otherwise you're never being allowed back on this channel. But you have 3,000 subscribers, why would I care? You got me there.
We then got the final trailer exactly 1 month before the game's release. If you remember the final trailer for Breath of the Wild, you know how insanely perfect that was. I still believe it's the greatest video game trailer of all time, so Tears of the Kingdom has a big shoes to fill. And my god, did they deliver. It had everything. Great music, action sequences, story bits, and even literal Tears of the Kingdom. Man, that looks tasty. I almost want to eat it. This was the final nail in the coffin to make everyone excited for this game. And we finally got to see rehydrated Ganondorf. This image set the world on a frenzy for about 24, 48, it's still going on. I could not have asked for a better trailer to set the stage for the game, and that last month felt like 5 years just sitting and waiting for its release date. And then that day finally came, May 12th, 2023, the day I purchased a second copy because my original pre-order wasn't gonna get here on time. Good job myself for spending $140 for one game. Real spending mastermind right here since I couldn't just wait 24 hours. Patience may be a virtue, but f*** that, Tears of the Kingdom is more important.
This is the most excited I've ever been for any Zelda game ever, and maybe any game ever in general. So did it live up to the hype? Yeah, of course, who would have guessed it turned out great. Today, we're taking a look at The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Before I even say a single word about this game, I want to say there will be massive spoilers when I begin to talk about the story, so I will let you know when I start diving into the main story. I will be mentioning the beginning of the game for now though, so if you don't even want to hear that, then probably just click off this video. It pains me to tell someone to leave, but it's for the greater good. I don't want to spoil this game for anyone. The game opens up just as the reveal trailer showed. Link and Zelda are walking down an eerie staircase underneath Hyrule Castle. There has been gloom coming up from the ground, which the two of them are going to investigate. They eventually come across some carvings on the wall, which talk about the imprisoning war, which Zelda has read about, and talking about how the Zonai came down from the sky and sealed a great evil. But the last few panels are covered by some rocks. I'm sure they're not blocking anything important. They continue down before seeing a glowing spiral in the middle of a platform coming out of something. And as we all know in Zelda games, nothing bad ever happens when Zelda goes towards an ominous glow in a dark area at the beginning of a game.
Can I lay on the sarcasm even thicker?
The two get near and see that it's a mummified body with a hand on its chest before the hand falls off of its body, dropping a tear jewel. The mummy starts moving and looks all cool. Oh fuck! The mummy knows Link and Zelda's name and sends gloom at Link, which drains all of his hearts, leaves his arm destroyed, and then shatters the Master Sword. It begins to lift the castle into the sky as the ground crumples around them and Zelda falls into the chasm. Link tries to catch her but just can't quite reach before she teleports away in a golden glow. Well, at least she's safe, but Link is still gonna fall to his death. Oh, the hand can float? If this is what happens when you're only a hand, I may have to test some things out. Link then awakens just like he did in the first game, except in a much less comfortable position with a new arm. And I'm gonna be the one to say it, mechanical or robot arms make any character's design 10 times cooler. You can't tell me he doesn't look more badass with this, like Anakin in Star Wars. Just don't go killing children, Link. Link hears a mysterious voice and finds the decayed Master Sword. I love how the game plays a depressed version of the item jingle theme when he picks it up. Link then continues to make his way out of the cavern and jumps off the cliff, which leads us to the game's title. I'm not sure how to put this in the words, but let me try. This is the greatest opening to a video game I've ever played in my f***ing life.
Did I come on a little too strong?
This game opening has everything. Talks about the world's lore and gets you interested? Absolutely it does. Ominous and on your toes level suspense that keeps you from getting too comfortable? Never been better. Gives you all your power just to take it away in an instant? Stole it from Metroid Prime, but I won't complain. Has a villain that kicks your ass and makes you scared to fight him? Hell yeah! And then this? It makes Breath of the Wild's opening shot on the cliff seem boring in comparison. Even the basic title screen when you reopen the game is 10 times better than Breath of the Wild's, although that's not hard to do. We can then immediately take control of Link and begin to explore the Sky Islands. The controls for the game are nearly exactly the same as Breath of the Wild, and thank goodness for that. The controls were nearly perfect, but if there was one thing I would change, it would have to be the jump button being X at the top. I don't know how they would change it with B being for running and Y for attacking still, but trying to run and jump to get extra distance is way harder than it needs to be. But if that's the only complaint about the controls I have, you're doing a pretty good job. This area is called the Great Great Sky Island, and it's essentially this game's version of the Great Plateau. It introduces you to the basic mechanics of the game with some new enemies called constructs. I never thought I'd say this, but I miss the Guardian designed robots. They were way more intimidating and cooler than these Zonai constructs, even if I wanted to shit my pants every time I saw one. We then run into a different Zonai construct, which gives Link the Pyrrha pad, which was left behind by Zelda. They just had to get rid of the Sheikah Slate because we can't have any references to the Wii U. Who do you think we are? PlayStation? We can then make our way over to the large structure on the island, which is the Temple of Time. Puts that puny temple on the Great Plateau to shame. Link tries to open it but gets denied before hearing the voice he heard as he woke up again. The voice reveals himself to be Rauru, or as the subtitle says, Source of Right Arm. Definitely has no other important titles to list. He tells Link that he needs to visit the shrines on the island to have the power to open the door. Link sets off, and these shrines give you your basic abilities you can use with your new arm, just as Breath of the Wild gave you the new abilities to use with your Sheikah Slate. Except they took the best one away from us.
I'm so sorry I ever took you for granted. I love you.
The three abilities are the Ultra Hand, Fuse, and Ascend. Let's go through these from worst to best. I'll start with Fuse. Now, I'm not saying this mechanic is bad since I actually kinda love it, but it's just weird as hell. You can fuse pretty much any item to a sword, arrow, or shield in order to increase its strength or add an element to it. In theory, it sounds pretty cool, and when you see how it works in the shrine, it does seem extremely cool. Until you fuse a spear to a longsword and now your sword is 20 feet long, then I start to wonder, why didn't I think of this? This is such a fun idea, and it makes for more variety in your weapons since the majority of the weapons you get in this game are weak and need to be fused with another weapon or collectible to make them strong. It can make any weapon useful. Just fuse a Lionel horn to a soup ladle and you're ready to take down the world. The only thing that I kinda don't like is that this means all elemental weapons aren't in this game, and I really liked having a flame or electric sword. I don't want to go wasting my gems on weapons, but at the end of the day, who really cares when I can just duplicate them 10 times and be set for life, so it's not a big deal. Also, speaking of that, why are so many people upset at others for duplicating items in a single player game? I'd understand if it was multiplayer and giving someone an unfair advantage, but if it doesn't affect your game, then why do you care? If you want to grind, that's perfectly fine. If you want to use a glitch, that's perfectly fine too. Do what you want and don't let others tell you that you're wrong. They can go fuck themselves. The second ability you get is Ascend. I feel like a parrot, but this is such a cool idea and makes climbing certain areas so much easier. This allows you to basically go through the ceiling and ascend all the way to the top. Some of the puzzles with this ability are super creative, especially one to get into Korok Forest, but I won't get into specifics to keep your mind guessing how you ascend into a forest from the ground. There are nights where I can't sleep because I'll just lay there staring at the ceiling waiting for a green circle to appear.
One of these days.
The final ability you get is the Ultra Hand, and this is the one you will use by far the most. Remember when I was having nuts and bolts flashbacks? I might have overreacted a little bit. This is so well designed, and it lets you pick up so many objects to move them and attach them to others with this weird glue-like substance. This is proof I'm a toddler on the inside because I really need to know what that tastes like. You can create bridges, ramps, or things to climb, and of course you can build aircrafts, cars, and boats, which is the best part of this game. There are Zonai devices that you can attach to pretty much anything that can add wheels, fans to move, rockets to blast off, or steering wheels to control your crazy contraptions. You can literally build whatever you want almost whenever you want, which makes this game feel even more open world than it already is. Before you try to call me a hypocrite and say, how can you like this but shit on nuts and bolts? Please, play both of these games first and then try to tell me there's not a difference. The hundreds if not thousands of puzzles the Ultra Hand allows for across the game makes for some of the wildest and most fun exploring you'll ever see. Whenever you think you've got a hand on the mechanic, it'll throw something brand new at you that you never saw coming. And the fact that the physics work to perfection on these is just mind-boggling. You'd expect at least one or a couple different things that don't work the way they should with all the different options, but nope. It always works, which I guess is what happens when you actually take the time and don't rush to finish your game. Someone needs to take notes. The entire gaming industry. Once you complete the 3 shrines, Link can open the temple and finds a tier which Zelda had that gives him the ability to reverse time. Almost any object that's in motion in this game can be reversed with this. This comes in handy so much more often than you think, and I love how the first thing you need to do with it is return to the beginning area and reverse up spinning platforms on the wall to find the 4th shrine. One of my favorite parts in any game is returning to an early area with a new ability to discover something that's hidden. It's definitely the power I use the least, but it's really cool and a fun extension of the freeze time rune from Breath of the Wild. Once you complete the final shrine, you can return to the Temple of Time and open the back door where Link holds the Master Sword and it's gone. And how the f did Zelda get it? I'm a sucker for transitions where it looks like it's in the same place but then it's just a different point in time. The sky then opens and lets Link jump down to Hyrule to head to Lookout Landing, which is being led by, oh, whoa, my good golly gosh! Pyrrha? What happened to you being a tiny girl?
I mean, I'm not complaining.
Pyrrha says they need to get the tower working, and once they do, it reveals how the towers are different than Breath of the Wild. That game, you had to climb your way to the top, and then you just downloaded the world onto your slate somehow. In this game, first it gives Link and myself Guardian PTSD, shoots him out of the cannon, which somehow isn't the first time for Link, and then he scans the area, which downloads onto his Pyrrha pad for the map. This makes a whole lot more sense to me than just putting the slate in a pedestal and oh wow, now I know where everything is. Pyrrha tells you there's been some crazy stuff happening over Hyrule, and Link should go investigate and see if he can bring them any closer to finding Zelda. The first area he should head to is Rito Village, but this is an open world game. Why the hell would I do what someone tells us? We can do whatever we want. Now this is where the game really begins and the spoilers really begin. If you don't want any of the main game spoiled for you, then click off this video and save yourself because you'll never forgive yourself for not experiencing this on your own. The game has 4 main regions to travel to, just as Breath of the Wild, plus a lot of other areas to go to that don't have as much story relevancy. AKA, the places I all went first, because why would I go complete the main story when I could go fight pirates in the bottom corner of the map away from the closest plot point? I can now say that this is the most fun I have ever had exploring a game's world. And the main Hyrule is essentially the same as Breath of the Wild, but it's still more fun to try and find what's changed. The tiny little details that you never thought they'd remember were brought back, and just seeing how towns and characters have changed never fails to make me smile. Plus, the addition of caves adds so much more depth to the landscape with more secrets to uncover and puzzles to solve. And speaking of depth,
This looks like a nice innocent hole to jump into. Let's see what's in here.
12 seconds later.
What the f***? I have found the demons described in the Bible. I gotta get out of here.
the depths are the creepiest, most ominous, and just fucked up area in any Zelda game, and I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. The fact that the world is all dark and you can't see anything adds to the mystique. Then when you find a light route to light up the area, it transforms the whole world again once you can see everything. This is what I imagine it would be like from going blind to being able to see, and it's a wonderful feeling. The enemies are 10 times harder, and the gloom all over the area drains your hearts, which is complete bullshit, but the fun kind of bullshit, you know? There are so many secrets down here, with tons of boss fights to get different tunics from the older games or other items which are all optional but fully worth it. You even actually need to go to the depths in order to reach Korok Forest, which is one of the cooler things I've ever experienced. If you enter Korok Forest, you immediately get engulfed by the smoke and get kicked out, so you need to return to the chasm just before the forest and make your way underground before ascending into the middle of the forest by the Great Deku Tree. Now that is how you make a puzzle around Ascend. Also, I'm not gonna lie, it took me way longer than I'd like to admit to realize that every light route is directly under a shrine in the main world. It would have been so much quicker to find shrines and light routes if I knew that sooner, but it made exploring the depths more fun without knowing that. And it took me until right now while editing this to notice that the name of every shrine is the name of every light route below it, but just backwards. It's tiny details like that which make the game so amazing and make me feel dumb for not realizing this 200 hours ago. But what's even more exciting than the depths is what we've all been waiting for. The Mad Lads did it. They made a Skyward Sword HD 2. I don't need to call Mori. I know that Skyward Sword is this game's dad. There is no way you can convince me that this didn't take inspiration from Skyward Sword to create the sky in this game, and I love them for that. There are so many islands to visit, and my only complaint is that it can be pretty difficult to get to certain islands. I understand that's kind of the point to not make it easy, but it makes me appreciate having a loft wing so much more. Now, if we get any DLC that gives us a loft wing,
write any amount on this check.
There definitely is more to do in the depths as opposed to the sky, but something about falling in the sky and seeing the whole world below you is such a wonderful feeling that I will never experience in real life because I'm scared of heights. I also love how there's the Thunderhead Isles in the sky as a nod to the Thunderhead in Skyward Sword. I think it gave me an unfair advantage to a puzzle later in the game since I immediately went there when we weren't told where we were supposed to go. All the main plot points and side adventures never really tell you exactly where you need to go or what you need to do. It adds to the game time and it incentivizes you to keep exploring and learn and find new things. There's literally no reason to ever go to Hateno Village in the main story, but you can also make Link look like a bad bitch if you do go, so you'd really be missing out. Speaking of side quests, if you thought that Breath of the Wild had a lot of side quests, you haven't seen anything yet. There is so much more to do in Hyrule than before, and it almost makes Breath of the Wild feel like a demo. Even the freaking Korok seeds were increased to 1,000, which might seem like it's painful to find them all. And you'd be right, but the puzzles are so much more fun, especially the ones where you have to take one Korok to its friends and you can attach them to any vehicle or contraption you want. Or you can just be a mass murderer like 90% of the people I see on Twitter. Thank goodness there's no Korok seeds in the depths, otherwise I would be one of those murderers too. There's also the Hudson signs that are falling over across Hyrule, which I thought were fun the first time I saw them. Then after about 10, 20, 30, 40, it just makes me want to leave them holding the signs up forever to suffer like me. I love how the quests range from just give me some items to take a picture picture of ancient text to kill a fucking Molduga. You never know what to expect, and it keeps the game fresh. There's also quests for certain shrines to make them appear, which usually replace the puzzle inside the shrines themselves. They're never too difficult, and in fact, I'd say they're easier than the actual shrine puzzles 99% of the time. I say 99% and not 100 because I did die the first time I fought the Talus for the shrine quest, and some of the shrine quests in the shrines I still don't know the solution to. The built for rail shrine seems like it should be easy, and now that I googled the answer, it really is. I like to think I'm pretty smart considering I was able to 100% this game fairly quickly with not too much help at all, but rails of all things are my downfall. I guess you could say this game railed me.
Boo! I'll see myself out.
If you thought there were a lot of shrines in Breath of the Wild, I got some news for you, bucko, because there are additional 32 shrines to bring that up to a total of 152. Scattered all across Hyrule and in the sky, it means there are like 157 or so dungeons in this game. Because yes, we actually have the return of dungeons in this game instead of the Divine Beasts. Side note, what the hell happened to the Divine Beasts and all the Sheikah technology? It just randomly all disappeared with no explanation. If it's not going to be explained in DLC, I'm going to have to deduct a point from this game's score. The temples in this game aren't nearly as annoying as some other Zelda games or as long as them either. They're fairly short but offer nice puzzles, and even just the journey to reach each of the temples is a puzzle on its own. I do have one question though. So the Wind Temple is in the sky, which makes sense. The Lightning Temple being in the desert might not seem like it makes too much sense, except Urbosa and Riju both having the lightning power, so that makes sense. The Fire Temple is inside a freaking volcano, enough said, and the Shadow Temple is in the dark in the depths. All of those make sense, right? So then why in the flying is the Water Temple floating in the sky? When Sidon creates the whirlpool in the lake, I immediately assumed we were going to be entering the temple under the water as any sane person would. But nope. Somehow it just opens up a waterfall in the sky, which you can climb up to reach the temple in the sky. This is almost as asinine as making a plant the Wind Sage and a bird the Earth Sage. At least once you actually reach the temple, it's a lot of fun, so I will give the game a pass, even if I think it would have been much cooler underwater. Especially when the boss is an Octorok, a species that lives in the water. Damn it! Speaking of bosses, I do really like the boss designs in this game, even if I think the majority of them are dirt easy. Colgera for the Wind Temple is one of the easiest things I've ever seen, but considering you're supposed to fight it first, it's understandably easy. Muktarok for the Water Temple is a cool idea using sludge to make a shark, but besides the sludge slowing you down, it's fairly easy and more so just kinda annoying. Marbled Goma is mainly cool because we haven't seen Goma in a 3D game since Twilight Princess. Using Yunobo's attack to knock its feet out is also fairly easy, but I love how you can just ascend to its head if you want to instead of taking its feet out. And then we have Queen Gibdo, the one boss that makes me think unnatural thoughts. I have no idea why, but the first time I fought this boss, I struggled hard. I couldn't get a hit off and couldn't dodge their attacks. I do love the idea of fighting it before the temple begins and then it runs away and you have to fight it at the very end. But then it spawns regular Gibdos, which makes the fight even harder. Thank goodness I chose to do this temple fourth, otherwise I might have wanted to hurt myself even more than I already did. I do love how each boss very clearly uses each new sage's ability to defeat it the most easily, but you don't need to use it, which is especially good since you have to fight all the bosses in a boss rush at the end of the game before the final boss if you don't complete the temples. So glad they kept that in from Breath of the Wild. The sages as a whole are super fun and mostly make direct sense from Breath of the Wild. Yunobo helped you with Va Rudania, Riju helped you with Va Naboris, Sidon helped you with Va Ruda, and then Tulin didn't help with Va Meadow, but he did play a tiny role in Age of Calamity. So there's that. It was nice to see the ancestors or family members of the champions from the first game now get their time to shine as the sages. Plus it was really cool to see how they've all grown. Sidon getting married and being named the king is enough to make a grown man cry.
That should have been me with Mifa!
Once you complete all 4, you're ready to head to Hyrule Castle in the sky to follow Zelda that you've been seeing all across the land. It turns out to be a fake, what a shocker, and it leads you to fighting Phantom Ganon. I immediately ran away from him and assumed we were going to be having a tennis battle, but no, it's an actual fight. Never thought I'd miss tennis in a Zelda game, yet here we are. We learned that this was just an image of Ganondorf and the real one is hiding out somewhere, but before we find him, we need to find the 5th sage. And this is the part of the game where it does not tell you where you need to go. So, as any Skyward Sword enthusiast would do, I went to the Thunderhead, and what do you know, it leads you right where you need to go. There's a mast that you gotta take down to a construct factory down below to create a giant mech, and then you ride that mech into the Shadow Temple and you have a massive mech fight. What else would you expect from a nuts and bolts ripoff? And the 5th sage is Minoru, who has died but lives on with her spirit in this mech. Oh, who is Minoru, you ask? Good question, since I just realized we're about 24 minutes into this video and I haven't even touched on the story yet.
Now, if you really don't want to be spoiled, then click off the video right now. But if you have made it this far and haven't left due to my cringy humor, first off, thank you, and second off, you probably do not care about spoilers.
When Zelda falls at the beginning of the game, the tear she is holding teleports her back in time to the origins of Hyrule, where she meets Rauru and Sonia, the first king and queen. Raru's sister Minoru begins to research the power of the secret stones, aka the tears, for how it transported her through time. While she's doing research, Ganondorf is introduced to Rauru, and even though he seems evil, he hasn't done anything bad yet, except that time he sent a herd of Molduga to attack the castle, but that was just a prank, bro, I promise. Minoru tells Zelda that she cannot think of any way for her to return to her time other than a forbidden technique where you swallow your tear to become a dragon. Saying something that dope is forbidden makes me want to do it even more. Ganondorf then creates a puppet of Zelda to try to trick Sonia, but she and Zelda already know and catch him, but not before he kills Sonia and takes her secret stone to unleash his full power. Rauru gathers the sages and gives them their secret stone to take on Ganondorf, but Ganondorf is still able to take them down until Rauru sacrifices himself to seal Ganondorf in the mummified state we find him in the beginning of the game. Zelda then contemplates how to return to her time before we see the scene where the Master Sword comes to her through time. She says she knows what she must do and Link must find her. How are we supposed to find her though? She's thousands of years in the past. It's not like there's any way she can revive the Master Sword and make her way to our time.
Damn it, I wanted to eat that!
This blew me away when I first saw it, and it really makes you feel pain for Zelda with how much she was willing to sacrifice to save the kingdom. I kinda had a feeling this is where they were going with when they first revealed that you can turn into a dragon, because why would they mention that if it wasn't gonna happen at some point? But it still shocked me that they actually went through with it. I love how you get bits and pieces of the story from the glyphs you find all across Hyrule, as well as from completing the temples. The sages tell you about the imprisoning war, and seeing all the pieces slowly fit together makes the whole journey worth it. And then knowing the dragon is Zelda, jumping from the sky on top of the dragon to take the Master Sword back is so much more fulfilling than just randomly finding it in a forest. Especially since, like how the first game required 13 hearts to pull the Master Sword, they changed it to stamina in this game. Makes it feel similar yet very different. And now that we have the Master Sword, all 5 sages, and the Hylian shield from a random chest in Hyrule Castle with no indication it's there, it's time to dive into the chasm below the castle and fight Ganondorf. But not before a gauntlet of gloom enemies that you can just run past if you're a pussy like me. You eventually make your way back to the staircase that you walked down at the beginning of the game, and hey, we can finally see what's behind those rocks for the rest of the story of old. Would have been nice to know that 100 hours ago. We finally then reach the final descent to the very bottom of the chasm where there's a gauntlet of enemies to fight, but not without the help of the sages. They got our back, and it feels much cooler to fight alongside them than just using their sage powers. Once you defeat them all, the bosses from the game appear, and the sages all say they'll fight him while Link heads up to face Ganondorf. Link walks in on Ganondorf and oh god, put some clothes on. I wanted to see the Gerudo King, not the Gerudo King Dong. Ganondorf gets rehydrated and turns back to his normal form before the final boss begins. This starts off as a very simple one-on-one fight where you just need to dodge his attacks and hit him at the right time. A classic sword fight with Ganondorf is something that can never go wrong, but once you start phase 2, he unleashes his full power and then the health bar. Okay, you can stop now, why aren't you stopping? Seeing this health bar just continue to get bigger and bigger was one of the funniest yet scariest things at the same time. He then creates Phantom Ganon forms of himself which start to walk towards you, but the sages come in one after another to each take one on while you focus on fighting the real Ganondorf. Once you get him weak enough, he knocks all the sages to the side and you once again face him one-on-one, and this is what I've been waiting for. He's actually smart and difficult. He can flurry rush your attacks by dodging, which is so damn cool, and his gloom attacks will actually take away your maximum hearts, which can make the battle much more difficult. You need to dodge him, which will cause him to dodge you, and then you have to dodge him a second time to flurry rush and finally get a hit off. It's one of the most intense sword fights in all of Zelda and exactly what I wanted. Once you defeat Ganondorf, he's a tad upset as he usually is, and he refuses to lose, so he does what any rational person would do. Turns into a fucking dragon. 2 people were turned into dragons and I was neither of them? I want a refund. Ganondorf becomes the demon dragon and begins to terrorize the sky, but then Zelda comes out of nowhere and catches Link and the dragons look face to face. Oh man, I'm so excited to get to control Zelda and fire dragon attacks, so never mind. Zelda just flies up into the sky and then you drop down as Link to the spots on Dragon Demon's body to attack it and weaken it. Would have been a lot cooler to fire dragon breaths or beams, but it's still a really fun and amazing battle even if it's pretty damn easy. They definitely made the Ganondorf part harder, with this being more of a cinematic fight to wrap up the story, just as they did with Dark Beast Ganon in Breath of the Wild. The final hit is on Dragon Demon's head, which you hit with the Master Sword to deliver the final blow and kill the dragon and unleash a nuke on Hyrule. Everyone should have just died, but that wouldn't be as fun. Link then sees the spirits of Rauru and Sonia, who use their powers to help revive Zelda back to her human form. But we're in the sky, so now she's plummeting towards the ground. Couldn't have stayed 2 seconds longer to teleport her to the ground or something, Rauru? Whatever, it gave us this awesome dive sequence to save Zelda and brings the game full circle with Link finally getting to grab Zelda and save her the way he couldn't at the beginning of the game. Love how it's like the exact same angle as well. It's those little things that make the game perfect. Zelda wakes up and is so happy to see Link has saved her, and they still don't kiss. But who am I kidding? If they didn't kiss at the end of Skyward Sword, it's never gonna happen. Even if they do share a house in this game with only one bed, so they're probably getting down and dirty, but that'll only live on in my head fanfics. There's then a final scene after the credits if you completed all the temples where Mineru's spirit finally moves on to the afterlife. And the mech is just fucking dead. The new sages recite the same oath the original sages did to vow to protect Zelda and Hyrule. Except Link, who kinda just stands there awkwardly. He's just like me for real.
So how would I rate Tears of the Kingdom? I can't believe I'm doing this, but Skyward Sword has been dethroned. This is my new favorite game of all time, and I am not ashamed to say that. We have new perfection. We don't need this bullshit anymore.
This game has everything I could ever want in a video game, and then some. The world is the most vast and exciting to explore of any Zelda game, and maybe any game ever. I know some games have larger worlds, but I don't have that same wonder and awe like I do exploring this Hyrule, plus the sky and depths. The characters are all amazing, and it's awesome to see how the characters grew up between games. Seeing Sidon get married, Riju growing up and getting stronger, Tulin going from a baby to enthusiastic teen, and Yunobo getting corrupted add to their story arcs and makes their journeys exciting alongside your own. The gameplay is so intuitive with so many different mechanics to keep the game fresh and keep you guessing. Even though there are puzzles, I feel like barely any have a solution that you have to do. Most can be solved with some bullshit you come up with on the spot, and that's the best part. The fighting is just as great in Breath of the Wild, with even more tactics now that you can fuse items onto your weapons and arrows. It makes fighting enemies more fun and creates new strategy to beat hard enemies like the Gleeoks. And speaking of enemies, I love them all except for one. Those goddamn Gloom Hands are going to give me nightmares for the next 5 years. I thought it was like a floor master from Wind Waker, but then the sky turned all red, and it's basically this game's version of a Guardian, except way creepier. Guardians had cool designs, but these feel like they're from the depths of hell, which is what it feels like fighting them, so I guess it makes sense. The music is also superb throughout the game, and even though there are some times where not much music plays like Breath of the Wild, it fits the ambiance and never feels like awkward silence. This really is the greatest game I've ever played, and I feel sort of relieved to not have to defend Skyward Sword at every turn now that there's a for sure better Zelda game out there. Tears of the Kingdom is a must-have game that everyone should play. You don't have to play Breath of the Wild first, but I would recommend it because it does help you feel more connected to the characters and appreciate the differences even more. All I have to say is thank goodness this game got delayed to 2023 instead of 2022. Otherwise, we would have had Elden Ring and this game in the same year, and I don't know how they would have voted for Best Game of the Year. They both deserve the title, and I'm glad they both will get it.
Who would have thought a Nuts and Bolts ripoff would end up being my favorite game of all time? And to make it even worse, Skyward Sword now has to pay child support for creating this game. Just a lesson for all you kids out there. Always remember to wear a rubber. Okay, maybe it doesn't always work that way.